everyone. Indian Fever. You can be part of the fun. On the winner at every game. That's where the excitement begins. So catch Indian Fever. Be a believer with the Cleveland Indians.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the February 7th, 2019 Lake County Sentinel Podcast. We are going to have a special podcast tonight. It will feature an interview with Cleveland Indians great shortstop Omar Vizquel. Omar was in town earlier this week for the Lake County Captain's Hot Stove Dinner. And the media here was fortunate to talk with Omar for about a half hour. So here is that interview with the media in its entirety. I hope you enjoy.
Leadoff guy.
What have you learned about managing that you didn't know as a player? I mean, when you were a player and you're kind of looking at the manager, hey, this guy's got an easy job. Now you've been on the other side.
Numbers, percentages. You know, it's completely different now, especially managing in the minor leagues. Managing in the minor leagues is completely different than managing in the big leagues. Obviously, we know in a lot of things. We know in the system. Depending on what kind of system you're in, you give players opportunities and chances and all that. Sometimes we have an order from the front office that they want particular players to be in a role that sometimes you don't see happening, but they have a different vision. They run their numbers and they want guys to do it that way. So you can really get out of that plan if that's what the team and front office really want. So, sometimes you have different opinions and different things, but you have to remember that it's not for your own good or for maybe winning that game on that particular day. It's just for them to evolve and to feel good and to do what they're expecting you to do. So it's a completely different thing.
Yeah. Have you researched the hot spots in Birmingham yet?
I was there once already. So, I kind of see some of the great places that are there. I think it's an exciting town to be on. But I don't really worry about the spots around because we have a responsibility on the field. You don't really have time to be, around anymore.
We're talking about timetable for getting to the big leagues as a player, which you obviously lived. What about timetable for getting to the big leagues as a coach or manager? I mean, have you said in X number of years, I want to have that opportunity?
Yeah, well, I'm still learning and the time will come. You will feel that that time is gonna be there at the right time. I feel like I'm still learning a little bit and doing it. I think I'm doing it the right way where you grow up with a group of guys and you're learning, you're going through the ropes, they said. It's like going through high schools, you start raising levels and start dealing with different things. And, I think I'm going into the right direction and I just have to be patient.
I shouldn't assume anything. Do you want to be a manager?
Of course. That's what we're doing this. Yeah, that's what we're doing this. I want to be a manager in the big league someday, and I hope that I can get that opportunity someday.
Omar, you're kind of doing it, the trend nowadays is they just pick some guy. He doesn't have to manage it. He doesn't have to go into the minors and work his way up. What prompted you to do it this way?
I think for your own good and benefit, I should do it that way. Even though that you play for a long time in the big league, there is a lot of things that go behind the doors that you don't understand yet. How to send players down and how to release guys and how do you deal with sabermetrics now? It seems like everything is sabermetrics and numbers and percentages, and you have to learn this kind of thing. I didn't have a degree on mathematics or anything like that, and it seems like some of the new guys that are getting is because they have this degree before, they prepared themselves before, and they kind of match the same personality that the front office has with the manager, and they know how to answer all these questions on different ways. And that's what you have to evolve as, and I want to do it the right way.
Your old teammate, Sandy Alomar, is getting recognized tomorrow with a Lifetime Achievement Award. You played with him for 7 years. You guys were together kind of from the beginning. Just what stands out to you about his career and the type of teammate he was?
I think what stands out from Sandy is the how smart he is, the way he thinks. He see the games obviously different than everybody because he was a catcher. And now being around Terry Francona and all this stuff, I think that he's learned so much on how to run a team. I think obviously he should be ready to manage a team someday. And I'm glad that I got to play with him because he was really intense. He was one of the guys I never liked to lose, and see him there, it just bring me a lot of great memories. And obviously, everybody knows about the Alomar family, how well they did in the big leagues. And it would be nice to see him getting a job someday. And congratulate him, obviously, for the achievement. What is that? What did you say he is? Like
Lifetime Achievement.
lifetime?
Cleveland Sports Awards.
Yeah, Cleveland Sports Awards.
That's awesome.
It's a nice.
What do you have to do that?
You gotta hang around.
Yeah, be old.
That's right.
You know, home run in the All-Star game.
That's right. Yeah, no, he brought a lot of joy to this town. I mean, Sandy was one of the originally people to build up the team. You know, him, Carlos Baerga, Kenny Lofton, Albert Bell, the guys that were in the organization from the beginning. You know, and they have to do it from the old ballpark and then adjustment to the new one. So, you know, it's great to see him still with the Indian. It's one of the greatest achievement, I think, that he is really.
Is it reasonable to assume a lot of the guys you worked with last year at Winston-Salem will make the move up to Birmingham this year? At least a certain number of them move up that one level, right?
Yeah, well.
How many of those guys in that locker room last year knew who you were as a player? These young guys, 18, 19, 20-year-old guys. How many of them knew Omar Vizquel, Gold Glove shortstop?
Probably half of them. I would say that half of them knew a little bit of my history of who I was. And, you know, they were thrilled, really, to have a guy that have Gold Glove and play in All-Star game. Always asking questions about how you do this and did you play with Ichiro and oh my God, did you play with Sammy Sosa? And they always have, you know, that thing in their mind. It's like, wow, you're just like me when I grew up, you know, when I came up into the big league and I started playing with Ricky Henderson and you know, all those guys that you see on TV. I guess it's kind of like the same feeling for them where they have this respect that sometimes they were afraid to ask a question because, oh my God, no, I'm not going to bother Omar Vizquel with this stupid question. But that's where you have to come in and kind of like come down to their level and say, hey, listen, I'm here for you. There is not such a thing that a stupid question. You can ask whatever you want. You got to give them the confidence and they feel good. And I think that reflects on the ball, on the team, on the way they play. They play awesome. And I'm so glad that I got to come up with the whole group of people, with most of them, really. There might be some players that maybe I'm not going to have the opportunity to come up, but I think most of them are ready to play AA ball.
Was it earlier this week that you were in Argentina for the clinic, running the clinic there?
Yes.
What was the reason that you wanted to do that, and how did that go?
Well, Argentina is a country that is not recognized for his baseball. You know, everybody talk about soccer players and tennis and golf, but nobody really talk about baseball. So when this guy from there, he have a foundation, he presented to me a project that he has of schools, of young guys coming up and trying to establish a baseball academy. It was a really cool thing because not many people know about baseball there. And I decided to go there and kind of like put a little seed in their mind, talk about baseball and have a whole weekend talking about the world baseball. We did like questions and answer thing. We did a motivational speech. We did a lot of different things that brought a lot of enthusiasm to the kids. And obviously because all the people that is migrating to South in Venezuela, we have that mix now of the Venezuelan Argentina people. So it's something nice to see. and I really wanted to be part of that project. Hopefully someday they can have an Argentina major leaguer now. That's gonna be like the long goal that we have, to have one of those kids and turn it into a big league.
Omar, you seem pretty excited about the progress you're making with the Hall of Fame. But the guys you played with, especially like Albert, Kenny Lofton, Manny, it seems like they're kind of stuck in making progress. Do you have any kind of feeling about where their Hall of Fame potential is?
The voting for the Hall of Fame sometimes is weird. You don't know what people is using, what criteria they're using to vote different guys. Now there is a lot of numbers now that you have to put into consideration. I don't know if you're leaning into that direction or you really lean into what you saw with your eye during those years. So, you just have to be patient about it. I know there has been some great players that sometimes don't get the voting as you expected, but it can change from one year to another. The steroid era kind of changed that a little bit. There is a lot of guys that don't feel good about voting for a particular guy, and vice versa. So, we are stuck to what the voters give us, and we can't do anything about it. All you got to do is just compare the numbers and see in your mind and in your eyes if these guys really belong there or not. That's the only thing we can do.
We talk about numbers. A lot of it's determined by numbers now. There's some shortstops in the Hall of Fame that their numbers aren't comparable to yours even. And how do you feel when you see that? There, some of the guys that are in there and you have better numbers.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, the whole voting thing has changed. Like I said, they've been evolving. There is a lot more competition now. And, a guy that hit 280, 50 years ago, probably is not going to have the same impact in these years. So that's the way I look at it. It's a lot more competition now. Everybody that is in the voting has some amazing numbers, and you only have to vote for 10 guys, I think. I don't know how. So it's very tough right now to kind of stick your nose in there.
I don't know how the White Sox structure the coaching duties in their minor league system, but does their structure give you time and room on, before batting practice or after BP to work with guys on the infield? Because obviously everybody associates you with shortstop and Gold Gloves. Do you have the chance to work with the young guys?
Yeah, we got plenty of time for that. That's our job. I mean, the manager there is the manager.
Right.
He's a third base coach. Sometimes have to be a trainer. Sometimes we have to carry the water into the dugout. I mean, he does it all. And he's awesome. I had the greatest time last year going down to minor leagues again, because it refreshed my memory, it bring me a lot of memories where my roots were, how you made it from a little kid that didn't speak English at 17 years old, came to America and start seeing all the new guys and opportunity, guys that play with spikes that, are broken and they're ripped on the side, and you don't have any more money or chances to get a new pair of cleats. Obviously that changed nowadays. All these guys now, they first round picks, and they're driving to the ballpark with these BMWs and Mercedes, and they're like, wow, man, this is awesome. I mean, take a look at this ballpark out here. You see at this ballpark, and we dream to play in a ballpark like this when we're single A. These kids have new opportunities now. The game has evolved so much now. They have psychologists, and they have people that talk about diet, and they have like screens or TV where they show you where did you struck out and how, and you can do the slow motion swing, and you can analyze all this stuff. So obviously your development in the minor leagues, it can be quicker on that process to make it to the big league because of all these new things that we have, all these new tools that we're presenting for them.
Speaking about this ballpark, you spent a weekend here in 2003 with Wickman on a rehab.
That's right.
And they had their 3 largest crowds ever. Really, they did. What do you remember about that weekend, if anything?
I remember that I was hurting. My knee was still hurt, and
Right.
I was afraid to take off and all that. And that's one of the reasons why we came to do rehab here, because you have to be stronger, obviously, to make that final call to the big leagues. But that's something that you have to learn to know your body and how your body responds in different situations. And that's what we got to do for these kids right now.
Is that when Rodriguez slid into you at second base?
It was one of those. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it wasn't Rodrigo, it was somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What advantage is it for you to be bilingual, especially with so many players from Latin America coming up through everybody's system?
Yes, it's awesome because sometimes some of these kids have no idea what the instructions that you're giving them, what do they have to do or what are they saying. In every major league team, you have this group of Latinos on one side, and then the American on the other side, and then you have a guy kind of like translating whatever the instructor is saying, and sometimes you miss the message because it's not the same when you're translating that when the guy is really talking to you eye to eye. So I encourage all my players to kind of like learn. Obviously the language, so you don't have to have a translator next to you. You can express yourself the way you want it, and that's some of the things that I really pushed for them last year. Matter of fact, this year they invited me to instructional league, and we try to put Latinos and American next to each other, so they don't have to go into the translation thing. So we cut off the whole Spanish communication and let them survive into the English. If you understand, good. If you don't understand, it's also good. But you have to try to make an effort to get the whole thing, the whole picture.
Will you go to spring training with the big league club, or will you be an instructor there? Okay.
Yeah. I also be in spring training, and I also be in instructional league.
Oh, okay.
And I haven't been in instructional league for 30-some years. I think the only time that I was in instructional league is when I came from single A to double A. They invite me there, and that's when I started my process of hitting left-handed. Okay. So, that was the first time really at 20 years old trying to live it left-handed. So maybe if I would have been a left-handed from the get-go, maybe I would have 3,000 hits and we wouldn't have to go through this.
You came close, man.
It was close, yeah. It was.
You could have played 5 more years.
No, well, I could have played me like being on the roster for 5 years, but I wouldn't probably have all the at-bats that I needed. So, I decided, no, it's enough. 45 is enough.
Yeah. 25 years ago, Jacobs Field opened, and that was your first year with the Indians. Do you remember like walking into there for the first time? And
yes, of course, man. Just driving in 90, and seeing the ballpark, the Jacob Field, all the new architecture, because obviously that was one of the new shapes of a ballpark. You kind of like get a little intimidation as you're seeing that. And then walking in and seeing the clubhouse, we didn't used to see the clubhouse as big as it was. It was a lot of, the training room was amazing. The training room was like as big as the clubhouse, and coming from other training rooms. And we have a little one table thing. It was really the first time when you see everything span and be so cool. So, and then remember the first game that we had against Randy Johnson and how we came back from behind to win the game. Obviously, it was the beginning of a great history there for the Cleveland Indians.
Do you have
awesome.
a favorite game or memory? From that,
many.
There?
I mean, many. But we were just talking about it. The game that we came back against the Seattle Mariners, where my son Nico was the first time that he was a bad boy, and it was I was nervous because I didn't want him to get hit, and then the game started going crazy. They scored 5 runs in the first inning, and then they went like 8-0 into the fourth, and all of a sudden we have a 12-run lead, and I was going into my mind, it's like, man, this is the last time I bring my kid as a bad boy. They're gonna hate Nico here. He brought us really bad luck, and then all of a sudden the game started changing, and we end up winning that game. So we started the game. I remember it was a sold-out game, 45,000 people, and in the 8th inning there were like 2,500 people. They all came down into the lower seats, and it felt like we have like 20,000 people. They were as loud as they could. So it was like exciting. Yeah.
One more thing about Jacobs Field back then. The first game was against the Mariners, but the actual first game was that Pittsburgh
exhibition.
Oh, it was
game.
an exhibition game.
Did you play in that one?
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
yeah, we were all there.
Any particularly because that was a weird way to kind of open that field with the game that really didn't mean anything.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Yeah.
did it have any
No,
special
that
meaning?
game didn't really mean much. I don't think people it really was what we weren't settled yet. Everybody was like trying to look for your locker.
I think it was a sellout.
Pack. Yeah, it was a good crowd, obviously, but it's not as exciting as the first one.
Right.
Yeah.
What's it like to send a
about that
player down or to release a
Man,
player?
you know what? This is a crazy story. The first players that I got to release was Kevin Sizer's son.
Really?
Yeah. He was a third baseman. He tried to make a conversion into a pitcher, and was trying to learn a new position. And when the front office called me and told me that I needed to release him, it was a really emotional to me because he wasn't just like any other kid. He was a kid of a player that I played with and a guy that I loved. Kevin was awesome as a person and as a player, and it really brought tears to my eyes, when I had to do that. But it's part of the game. It's part of the game. You have to be as sensible as you can, and obviously bring him like a different picture to him. And it's sad, the release. But sending down is different. I think there is a lot of more reasons why a player go down. Maybe because he doesn't have a spot on the roster. It's not because he's not performing. Sometimes it's just because we needed a spot or we need something else. But yeah, it is also a little sad, but not as sad as releasing somebody.
Do you remember the circumstances in '89 when you knew you were going to make the roster for Seattle? Like, did you get a phone call? Did you get a manager call you in the office?
Yes, of course. I remember the circumstances. I was never expected to be on that team. The fact that they have a shortstop named Ray Quiñones, and Ray was late to spring training because he got into a dispute with his contract. And then the AAA shortstop that used to be Mario Diaz got hurt, and he had shoulder problems, and they didn't really have anybody else but stick this young kid up there that wasn't ready to be in the big league. But obviously brought a lot of attention the way that he played and the way that he handled himself on the field, because I play in Venezuelan winter ball with a lot of old players. So, he gives the manager the confidence enough to give me the confidence to be there on the team. And when the last day came up and everybody was broke in camp, he called me into an office and told me, hey, you're going to be my shortstop. So, that was the way that I prepared. I have a 2-day preparation to be into a big league.
Did you, with the emotion that you felt, did you expect it because you knew other
No,
guys were injured?
I thought I was going to be in AA roster that year, but they decided to leave me in the big league team. And, I called my mom and dad right away and told them about the news and how excited we were about making my dream come true. Finally, I'm in the big leagues. So.
And in your first game, you made an error. Do you remember that?
Yes, of course. I made an error. I made an error over a ball that Dave Parker, and we were playing the Oakland A's in Oakland, and Dave Parker hit a ball that I couldn't really handle, and then McGuire came behind and hit a home run. So yeah, that was the first game.
Welcome to the big leagues.
Yeah, exactly.
How many people can have a first name that's instantly identifiable? In Cleveland, you say Omar, and you don't have to explain who that is. What is it? Why do you think, Omar, you and the Cleveland sports culture and the fans mesh so well? And to this day, still the same thing.
I think obviously the length that I play here with the Indians. I was there on the glory days with all the playoff and all the World Series, and the kind of personality thing that the whole team has. Obviously, everybody's stuck up in a different ways, and I think they remember when you say Omar, the colors. All the bright colors and the way that we used to talk and all that. I still got friends that when they call me, they try to imitate my accent on the phone. So, that's just something that stuck up for everybody.
I have to ask this, what was a better team, 95 or 97? Or were they totally different and thus not comparable?
No, it's comparable in some ways. Obviously when you get to the World Series, you have a great team. You always got a great team getting in there, and there is no average team or something like that. You have to have a great team to get there, and those teams were great. And we believe that there were teams that were as great as those, but we didn't really have the chance. Sometimes you just need a little bit of a break, Going to the teams of the Indians right now, they got great teams. They got great pitching, and if you break it down, they got great numbers, but they haven't been able to make it to the next step. So, sometimes great teams doesn't necessarily get there. It's just the way that you're playing on that particular time.
From the circumstances of your career, undrafted free agent, you said you didn't expect to make that team in '89, to doing that to potentially Hall of Fame. Is it easier to relate those stories to the young kids that you manage today?
Yes, real easy. But I also believe that everybody have a different story, and they all came up in different circumstances. Some kids learn quicker than others. Some kids are like late bloomers. It takes time for them to get confidence and all that. How much you believe in yourself is have a lot to do with the conviction that you got, or that you belong there. So and coming from Latin countries is different. You have to deal with a lot of social issues sometimes that maybe that slow the process down, and you got to understand that and go from there. So that's what it is so important too, to speak Spanish, because you can tell him your stories and relate to every one of them.
Can you prepare a kid for the emotion of making the jump from one level to the other, or is that just something that has
Yes,
to come naturally?
you could. You got to be really in touch with him every day. Kind of like I said, like a teacher, like a father. Yeah.
Do you remember the old stadium here, coming here as a visitor?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
A little bit different than when Jacobs Field opened?
Way different. Yeah, it's like, day and night. Yeah, no doubt.
Did it seem, so when you got traded to Cleveland, you didn't know, obviously, what Jacobs Field would look like or be like?
Nobody knew.
Yeah.
Nobody knew what to expect. Even though you see it in pictures and all that, they're never expecting when you walk in there. It's like, wow, this is like Disneyland. It's beautiful. And obviously, I played in the old Comiskey in Chicago. Coming from there to the new one also was a big impact. Playing in the old Detroit. Detroit was even, I think that was the biggest impact, because going in Detroit and see the old ballpark that was almost like falling apart, and you had to go into the dugout, and I was a little guy and I had to bend down. Yeah, it was really hard. And all of a sudden, you got this huge, amazing piece of architecture there. Those were impact ballparks too. So it wasn't only the Jake, but all the new parks now. Pittsburgh also. I never played in the old Three River Stadium, but just going to the new one. Wow, what a beautiful place that is. Awesome ballpark. The Giants. Everybody speak about the Giants ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
I had the opportunity when I was a free agent after Cleveland, play in the Giants. What a beautiful ballpark that is.
That's gorgeous.
Wow, that is awesome. And everybody talk about being in the old one. What a ugly ballpark that was.
Candlestick. It would freeze it, man.
Candlestick, and everybody hated to play in that ballpark because of the wind and the cold. So, there's a lot of different ballparks now that are unbelievable.
The groundskeeper there went there directly from here, from this ballpark
Yes, I
here,
heard.
Greg.
Yeah, that's
Greg
right.
Elliott.
Yeah.
He was pretty good at what I Googled one-handed plays by Omar Vizquel before I came here, just to see, because everything, pardon me, is on YouTube, and it's there.
Mhm.
Would you teach a young shortstop that play, or is that unique to what you were able to do? Is that a
Well,
play you'd recommend?
I wouldn't teach it to a shortstop, but I've been teaching it to a third baseman, because obviously coming in for a bunt,
Right.
sometimes you have to barehand a ball. It's not something that I really want to do, but it come up in the game. And, we talk about it. We don't practice it so much,
Right.
because you don't want to injure anybody. You can roll just little balls very slow and then see the technique that I use. But, it's not something that I teach. Like if you play shortstop, that you're going to barehand many balls. It doesn't happen very often.
They might be asking, like, which is your favorite kid? But of those barehanded plays that I saw on YouTube today, is there one that you say that was the best?
There were many of those. Every time that you dare to catch a ball barehand that is going on a speed that is not really necessary to catch it is a great play. Especially when you save a no-hitter with a barehand ball.
Basile.
Yeah.
The last out, right?
The last out of the game. Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, it was the last out of the game.
See, now my brother thought that.
Well, that was our interview with Cleveland Indians legend Omar Vizquel. I hope you enjoyed it. We will not have a podcast tomorrow. We will be back on Monday with our regular format of 15 minutes of sports and 15 minutes of politics. Until Monday, we'll just say goodbye and we'll say, rest in peace, Frank Robinson.